We live in an era of rapidly shifting dynamics. And so what that means for you and I is, for us to truly succeed and to maintain that success, we must gather wisdom. We must gain wisdom and, just as importantly, recognize how to apply that wisdom. So in this episode, if you get nothing else, I want you to focus on one key concept. And that's the need for us to be informed, but not influenced. And let me explain what I mean. We need to be informed about those dynamics, those forces at play, especially those things that lurk below the surface, those that have the potential to profoundly impact or even disrupt situations, dynamics, paradigms, and so on. We want to be aware, we want to be informed, but we don't want to be influenced. So often people are made aware, they begin to recognize a potential issue, but then they respond emotionally. And remember, we have the advocate, we have the Holy Spirit. So if we're informed, but we're not influenced, we're able to detach emotionally, not have that knee-jerk reaction, and then seek the Holy Spirit for our personal direction on how to succeed regardless of the situations. I'm reflecting upon Isaac in the middle of a drought, sowed in a land that got 100-fold increase. And while the Bible doesn't specifically say that God told him to do so, I think we can infer that it ran counter to what we might consider common sense. And in fact, in the face of potential disruptions, increasingly, common sense doesn't set you up for that true success. And I'm going to give you a specific situation. Now, this involves residential real estate in the United States. But for those of our members who reside in other areas, don't discard that. Why? As the world's largest, by a massive factor economy, what happens in the United States has ripple effects throughout the global economy. And residential real estate especially has profound implications throughout the entire economy. It affects more than just real estate values, especially declines. Potential declines can have this profound impact. What we're seeing at the moment is there is a possibility that we could see a spike in foreclosures in the second half of this year. And specifically, in many of the areas that saw that profound price appreciation over the last number of years, areas for anywhere from, say, Arizona, Texas, Florida, etc. And while there's issues throughout the United States, those areas have a greater indication of potential problems. They had this massive appreciation. They had great population increases, prices go through the roof, and a lot of it was artificially stimulated by ultra-low interest rates, lockdowns, and so on. But now we're in a new era, and what we're finding is this, is while prices at the moment remain high, affordability for most people is just not a possibility. Combination of those high values and high interest rates have kind of closed the door on that home ownership of affordability issue. But what we also see is, now then, we're seeing that the inventory buildup in a number of states, and it hasn't impacted prices yet because we haven't seen those number of sales, but that what we're seeing is a significant inventory buildup. We're seeing inventory levels that are double or even triple in some communities. Remember, residential real estate is not just state-specific, but even in communities and neighborhoods. But we're seeing in a number of areas where that inventory buildup is doubled or tripled from even a year or so ago. And one of the other potential contributing factors is large corporate investors, those Wall Street firms who bought properties as rental properties, who now seem to be potentially looking to begin to unload much of those assets. And in fact, to give you an idea how significant this is, estimates range from anywhere from corporate investors owning, say, 500,000 homes in the United States to anywhere as high as maybe 700,000. And you do see in a number of those communities where they are beginning to list them, and you are just beginning to see in, again, some communities, significant markdowns. Homes that were previously on the market, they'll pull them off, bring the price down, put them back on so it looks like a fresh listing, so on. Now the point is this, again, it's not to drive fear, but rather for God's people to begin to break through, change their paradigm, begin to have God show them opportunities where others don't recognize it. That, are we going to see that spike? It's difficult to say. All we know is the factors are starting to show a very serious softening. And the challenge is all markets have a tendency to overshoot. When a market has momentum, any market, stocks, bonds, real estate, whatever it may be, when it has momentum, it will overshoot real value, where it really should be. And the news will support it as it's doing so, which means when markets are hot, they'll go too far. But when they begin to fall apart, they also will go too far. But in the midst of that, there are opportunities. So we want to, in all situations, we want to gather that wisdom and to begin to seek the application of that wisdom. We want to be informed, but not influenced. And then we can then take that information, those details, to the Holy Spirit for direction specific to us. And specifically, my desire, my passion in this is to see God's people that can radically break their personal financial paradigms, that they would break free and move in an entirely new depth of blessing. So, will we see a shakeout in the residential real estate market? The jury is still out, but it's looking increasingly like a possibility. But the real question is this: God, where is the opportunity, not just for us generally, but specifically for each one, based on their needs or situations, their own challenges? Holy Spirit, where's the opportunity for that person to break free, change their paradigm, and again, begin to move in that new depth of blessing?